She stood there, 6 months pregnant, being called weak in her own house. Her husband laughed. His mistress smiled. They thought silence meant surrender. They didn't know the woman they mocked was trained to break bones with bare hands. And when he touched her one last time, everything changed. Because this is not a story about revenge. This is a story about a woman who remembered who she really was. Backhand index pointing right, watch till the end. Because the truth waiting at the end will shake you. And if you believe kindness is not weakness, subscribe now for stories that awaken strength. Emily once lived in a world of applause. Stadium lights, national flags, gold trophies lifted with steady hands that never trembled. Her name spoken with respect in training halls where discipline ruled and weakness had no place. Kung Fu was not just her skill, it was her identity. And then she chose love. When she married Daniel, she didn't just change her last name. She folded away her medals, let the training mats collect dust, silence the strength that had once defined her. Daniel said he wanted a simple wife, someone gentle, someone calm, someone who wouldn't overshadow him. So Emily softened herself. She told herself love meant compromise, that real devotion meant sacrifice. When she became pregnant, she stepped even further back, protecting the life growing inside her, convincing herself that endurance was the same as strength. When Daniel dismissed her opinions, she smiled. When his words cut sharp, she swallowed the pain. When loneliness crept in at night, she held her stomach and whispered promises to the child who would never feel unwanted. To the outside world, Emily looked fragile, quiet, too weak to argue, too gentle to fight. But silence isn't emptiness. Silence is restraint. It is a warrior choosing not to draw her blade. Emily wasn't broken. She was waiting. Waiting because she believed love could still return. Waiting because she hoped patience would heal what pride had damaged. Waiting because she thought enduring quietly would protect her family. She didn't know yet that love built on her silence was already rotting. And she didn't know that the same woman who chose peace still carried a storm in her bones. Because silence isn't surrender. It's patience, right before the truth demands to be heard. Marriage was supposed to feel like shelter. But for Emily, the walls slowly began to close in. At first, it was subtle. Daniel stopped asking how her day had been. His eyes no longer followed her when she entered a room. Conversations turned into instructions, affection into obligation. She was no longer a partner. She was a presence that barely registered. Pregnancy changed her body, but it changed his gaze even more. He called her sensitive when she cried, overdramatic when she spoke up, too weak when she needed support. Emily learned the dangerous art of shrinking. She spoke softer, walked quieter, learned which topics would ignite his irritation and which silences would keep the peace. Love, she told herself, sometimes looked like endurance, and so she endured. Daniel's mother made sure she never forgot her place. She's pregnant, not disabled. She would scoff when Emily rested. What kind of wife can't even serve tea properly? In our family, women don't complain. The words weren't shouted. They were sharper than that, delivered with polite smiles and public humiliation. At family dinners, Emily became invisible except when she failed. Her swollen feet, her aching back, her exhaustion were treated like personal flaws. Home stopped feeling safe. It became a place where footsteps caused anxiety, where doors closing sounded like judgment, where laughter in the other room meant she had once again been excluded from her own life. Even the child inside her didn't soften them. If anything, pregnancy made her seem replaceable. She's not the woman she used to be, Daniel muttered once, not caring if she heard. All she does is rest. Rest, as if carrying a life were laziness. Emily would sit alone at night, one hand on her belly, feeling the gentle kicks that reminded her she wasn't truly alone. She whispered stories to her unborn child, stories of kindness, of courage, of a world gentler than the one she lived in. But with every passing day, she felt herself growing smaller. Not weaker, smaller. Her confidence eroded by 1,000 cuts. Her voice dulled by constant dismissal. Her needs buried beneath expectations she could never meet. And while she folded inward, The cruelty around her grew bolder. Neglect turned into indifference. Indifference hardened into contempt. Daniel began coming home late. His phone stayed locked. His excuses became rehearsed. When Emily asked questions, she was accused of mistrust. When she stayed silent, she was blamed for distance. There was no winning, only surviving. The cage wasn't built overnight. It was assembled piece by piece, with words instead of bars and expectations instead of locks. And the most painful part? No one saw it. To the world, she was a quiet pregnant wife in a respectable home. To them, silence meant peace. But inside Emily, something was changing. Not anger, not revenge, awareness. She was learning the difference between patience and self-erasure, between love and captivity. And though she still chose silence, it no longer came from hope alone. It came from clarity. Because a woman who has been pushed to the edge doesn't disappear. She prepares. And the cage they built around her? It was about to reveal just how strong its prisoner truly was. The day Daniel brought his mistress home, he didn't bother with excuses. There was no shame in his posture, no guilt in his eyes, only entitlement. Emily was sitting in the living room when the door opened, her swollen feet resting on the edge of the couch, one hand absently tracing circles over her belly. The house was quiet, heavy with the kind of silence that comes before something breaks. Then laughter filled it. High, careless, unfamiliar. Daniel walked in first, confident, relaxed, as if he were returning from a victory rather than committing a betrayal. Behind him stood a woman in bright red heels, polished and proud. Her arm looped through like she belonged there. "This is Lena," Daniel said casually. "She'll be staying with us for a while." With us. Emily didn't speak. She simply looked at the stranger standing in her home, her safe place, the last territory she thought was still hers. Lena smiled, slow and deliberate, eyes scanning Emily from head to toe. The pregnancy, the loose clothes, the tired face. "So this is her?" Lena laughed. "You weren't exaggerating. She really does look fragile." Daniel chuckled. "She is," he replied. "That's why you're here. She's too weak to handle things now." Weak. The word landed like a slap. They sat on her couch. They drank from her cups. They spoke over her, around her, as if she were furniture, present, but irrelevant. Lena kicked off her shoes and crossed her legs, claiming space with comfort that didn't belong to her. "Don't worry," she said sweetly, not even looking at Emily. "I'll help take care of him. You should be grateful." Grateful. Emily felt the baby shift inside her, a gentle reminder of the life she was protecting. Her heart pounded, not with rage, but with clarity so sharp it hurt. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't a mistake. This was a display. Daniel wanted her to see it, to feel it, to understand that her silence had been mistaken for permission. His mother entered the room later, her lips curling into a satisfied smile. "Finally," she said, "at least this one looks capable." No one asked Emily how she felt. No one noticed her hands tightening, then relaxing, a habit learned long ago on training mats, where control mattered more than force. Her breathing slowed. Her posture straightened almost imperceptibly. They mistook stillness for weakness. They laughed when she stood up slowly. They smirked when she said nothing. They didn't notice the shift in the room, the subtle change in energy that happens when a warrior stops pretending to be harmless. That was their mistake. Because Emily had given up trophies, not discipline. She had laid down her titles, not her instincts. And as they laughed at her pain, sitting comfortably in a home they thought they'd conquered, none of them realized the truth. They hadn't walked into a broken woman's house. They had stepped into a master's territory. And soon, silence would no longer protect them. The breaking point didn't come with shouting. It came with a hand. Daniel was angry, not because he had crossed a line, but because Emily still hadn't reacted the way he wanted. Her silence no longer looked obedient. It looked defiant, and that unsettled him. "Stop standing there like that," he snapped, stepping closer. "Say something." Emily didn't move. That's when he grabbed her wrist. Not hard at first, just enough to remind her who he thought was in control. The room went quiet. Lena leaned back, amused. Daniel's mother scoffed. See? She can't even stand up for herself. But then Daniel's grip tightened. Emily felt it instantly. Not the pain, but the danger. Her balance shifted. Her stomach tensed. The baby inside her stirred sharply. A sudden kick that wasn't playful. Threat. And in that single moment, something ancient awakened. Her body remembered what her heart had spent years trying to forget. Training halls at dawn. Calloused knuckles. Breath control drilled into muscle memory. A master's voice. Power begins with calm. Fear drained away. Not slowly, completely. Her breathing evened out. Her shoulders relaxed. Her eyes lifted, clear and steady for the first time in years. Tears didn't fall. They were replaced by control. Don't, she said quietly. The word wasn't loud. It wasn't emotional. It was final. Daniel laughed and pulled harder. That was his last mistake. Emily pivoted, not rushed, not angry. One clean movement. Her wrist rolled free as her body turned sideways, shifting her center of gravity away from her belly. Her free hand came up, fingers precise, locking onto pressure points he didn't know existed. A sharp twist. Daniel gasped. Before anyone could react, his arm was trapped, immobilized against his own body. His knees buckled as pain shot through him, sudden and unbearable. Not broken, controlled. Emily held him there, pregnant, calm, unshaking. The room froze. Lena screamed. Daniel's mother staggered back, disbelief written across her face. W, what are you doing? Emily didn't answer. She adjusted her stance, protective, deliberate. 1 foot forward, weight balanced, belly shielded. Years of discipline flowed through her, like a language she had never forgotten. Daniel tried to struggle. He couldn't. This is impossible, he hissed through clenched teeth. Emily leaned closer, her voice steady, almost gentle. No, she said. This is who I've always been. One movement, one grip, not to punish, not to prove, to end the lie. She released him and stepped back instantly, creating space, de-escalating, the mark of true mastery. Daniel collapsed to the floor, clutching his arm, stunned more than hurt. Silence filled the room again. But this time it was different. It wasn't submission. It was authority. Emily looked at Lena, who had gone pale. Leave, she said simply. Then she turned to Daniel's mother. And you? Never speak to me like I am small again. No shouting. No threats. Just truth. In that moment, everyone saw it. The woman they had mocked. The wife they had dismissed. The pregnant body they had called weak. She was not fragile. She was restrained. And when her child was threatened, restraint ended. Emily placed a hand over her belly and exhaled slowly, grounding herself. The warrior had not woken up in anger. She had woken up in protection. Because real power doesn't roar. It moves once and changes everything. Emily didn't raise her voice after that day. She didn't threaten. She didn't argue. She didn't seek revenge. Because revenge still ties you to the person who hurt you. Instead, she chose something far more powerful. Distance. The next morning, she packed only what mattered. Medical records, legal documents, a small box of old medals she had once hidden away, not as trophies, but as proof of who she had always been. She left the house quietly, without drama, without explanation. Daniel tried to regain control. He apologized when fear replaced arrogance. He denied when pride returned. He twisted stories, hoping her silence would once again protect him. It didn't. Emily filed for divorce. Not in anger, in clarity. The truth unfolded on its own. Witnesses spoke. Patterns emerged. His reputation cracked under the weight of his own actions. Not because she attacked him, but because she stopped covering for him. Freedom arrived quietly. In a small apartment filled with sunlight, Emily rebuilt her life. She trained again, gently, carefully, honoring both her body and the child growing inside her. Strength returned not as aggression, but as balance. She gave birth surrounded by peace, not fear. Daniel lost more than a marriage. He lost the illusion that power comes from control. Lena disappeared the moment reality arrived. His mother's voice carried no authority where Emily now stood. And Emily, she didn't destroy him. She simply stepped out of the role that had been shielding him from consequences. That was justice. Not loud, not cruel, complete, because dignity doesn't need applause. It doesn't need revenge. It only needs one brave decision, to stop shrinking. And as Emily held her child for the first time, she knew this truth with certainty. She hadn't survived by being silent. She had survived by knowing when silence must finally end. Emily didn't win because she fought. She won because she remembered that kindness is a choice, not a weakness. Some women are not broken. They are restrained. And when they stop holding back, the world feels it. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you of the strength you forgot you had, like, share and subscribe, because the quietest person in the room is often the strongest.